In the peaceful village of Qualare, nestled between ancient baobab trees and the slow-moving river Zanza, lived two sisters, Zuwaira and Halima. Though born of the same mother, they were as different as moonlight and fire. Zuwaira, the older, by 5 years was calm, wise and quiet like the evening breeze. She helped their mother with weaving mats, cared for the sick in the village, and never raised her voice. People often said she carried the spirit of their grandmother, a healer and peacemaker. Halima, on the other hand, was full of life and questions. She was bold, curious, and always dreaming about life beyond the village. She loved singing during the rain and running barefoot through the fields. Despite their differences, they were close, until Farouk returned. Farouk had once been a thin village boy, quiet and unnoticed. But after 7 years in the city, he came, back tall, strong, and with eyes that held stories. Now a successful cloth trader, he had come to take a wife. His return was the talk of the village. Every girl dreamed of marrying him, including Halima. From the moment Halima saw him at the riverbank, carrying fabric and laughing with the elders, her heart decided he would be hers. She told Zuwaira everything, how he smiled at her, how she believed their fates were tied. Zuwaira listened quietly, never saying much. She had always let Halima dream. But something shifted when Farouk began visiting their compound. At first, it was innocent. He came to greet their father, who had once helped him when he was a child. But soon he stayed longer, asking about their family, joining their meals, and helping their mother carry firewood. Halima's heart fluttered every time he laughed with her. She even started braiding her hair differently, wearing her best wrapper, when she knew he might come. Then, one evening, the elders announced that Farouk had made his choice. A gathering was called, and every villager came with excitement burning in their chest. Halima sat beside her mother, her heart pounding. Farouk stepped forward, holding a small leather box. His voice was strong, clear. "I have seen the heart of a woman who calms storms. I wish to marry Zuwaira." Gasps filled the air. Halima's smile faded like a shadow at sunset. She looked at her sister, confused, betrayed, broken. Zuwaira sat still, eyes lowered, lips trembling. That night, Halima couldn't eat. Her world had cracked open. How could Zuwaira not tell her? How could she accept? Their mother tried to speak, sense into her. "My daughter," she said. Farouk chose with his heart. Zuwaira did not chase him. But Halima couldn't hear. All she saw was the man she loved and the sister she trusted, now together. She stared at the moon that night, her eyes hot with unshed tears. Somewhere deep inside, a seed of darkness was planted, and the village of Qualare had no idea what was coming. For days after the announcement, Halima barely spoke. She moved like a ghost through the family compound, her eyes empty, her voice quiet. The laughter that once echoed from her room was gone. She watched Zuwaira from the shadows, how she continued sweeping the courtyard, how she helped their mother without pride, how she wore a simple wrapper even as the bride-to-be. Not once did Zuwaira flaunt Farouk's choice. Not once did she gloat. But that only deepened Halima's pain. She kept asking herself, why her? Why not me? The villagers spoke in whispers. Zuwaira is gentle, a true wife. Some said. Others shook their heads, pitying Halima. She thought he would choose her. Poor child. Each word became a thorn in Halima's heart. One afternoon, as she fetched water from the stream, 2 girls passed by giggling. "Did you hear?" one whispered loudly. Halima tried to charm Farouk, but he still chose her sister. They didn't know she was listening, but Halima heard every word, and it broke her. When she got home, she went straight to her room and cried until night fell. That evening, during supper, their father announced that Farouk's family would visit the next week to begin marriage rites. The compound buzzed with excitement. Their mother began preparing yams and smoked fish for the guests. Zuwaira was sent to the tailor for her engagement attire, but Halima sat alone in the back hut, chewing bitterness like kola nut. Later that night, she walked into Zuwaira's room. Her sister was sitting quietly, combing her hair. "Zuwaira," Halima said, her voice stiff. "Why didn't you tell me?" Zuwaira turned slowly. "I didn't know how," she whispered. "I didn't ask him to choose me." "But you said." "Nothing. You just accepted." Halima's voice cracked. "I thought it was a mistake," Zuwaira said. "I didn't know until that day." Halima stared at her sister's face, so calm, so guiltless. She wanted to believe her, but anger clouded her vision. That night, Halima couldn't sleep. The memories played again and again. Their childhood, their secrets, the time Zuwaira covered for her when she broke their mother's pot. She remembered how they used to dream under the mango tree, imagining a future where nothing would come between them. But now, that future was gone. A week later, Farouk's family arrived. The compound was full of singing and talking. Drums beat, food steamed, elders spoke in proverbs. Farouk looked proud beside Zuwaira. Their hands touched briefly. He smiled at her. Halima felt something snap inside her. Later, during the celebration, she overheard her mother speaking to a neighbor. "Zuwaira has always been special," she said. "She is the true light of our home. Halima is wild. She dreams too much." Halima's stomach turned. She walked away, but her legs felt heavy. In her chest, something dark began to grow. From that day, Halima stopped eating with her family. She avoided Zuwaira. When their mother tried to speak to her, she would nod politely, but walk away. The warmth in her eyes was gone. Zuwaira tried to speak to her again, to apologize, but Halima only smiled faintly and said, "It's all right. You won." And that smile, sharp and hollow, was the beginning of what the elders would one day call the cursed smile of Halima. The moon was full when Zuwaira and Farouk were finally wedded. The villagers gathered beneath the stars, singing and dancing as the bride was led around the fire 3 times, her face hidden behind a fine veil. Women clapped, drums spoke, elders gave blessings. It was the kind of wedding people would speak of for years. Halima didn't attend. She stayed inside the back hut, curled on a mat, her ears closed to the laughter that floated on the wind. Her fingers clutched the edge of her wrapper as her heart thundered with a strange mixture of grief, envy, and rage. That night, she whispered to herself, "I was the one who loved him first. I was the one who believed." After the wedding, Farouk and Zuwaira moved into a small mud brick house gifted to them by the elders. It stood not far from the family compound, near the mango grove where the sisters once played. Halima passed by. It often, pretending not to look, though her eyes always searched for a glimpse of them together. And each time she saw them, laughing, planting maize, sweeping their doorway, her heart sank deeper into darkness. Weeks passed, but Halima's pain only grew. She smiled less, spoke less, and withdrew from everyone. Her parents worried, but didn't know how to help. "She just needs time," her mother said, but time did not heal her. Then, one Friday evening, Halima knocked on Zuwaira's door. Zuwaira opened it with a bright smile. "Sister, you came." Halima stepped inside, forcing a weak smile. "I came to talk. I want us to be like before." Touched, Zuwaira hugged her. "I have missed you. Farouk is not home. He took yams to the market. But come, sit." They sat together, just like old times. Zuwaira brought groundnut soup and fufu. They ate quietly. For a moment, Halima almost forgot the weight she carried. But when her eyes landed on a small carved box in the corner, the wedding gift Farouk had given Zuwaira, Her stomach twisted. Again, Zuwaira stood and said, "Let me get you some palm wine." She walked to the kitchen. Halima's eyes followed her, and that was the moment. She stood, walked into the kitchen slowly, and picked up a knife from the clay shelf. When Zuwaira turned around, the smile still on her face, her eyes met her sister's, and froze. "Halima?" she asked, her voice uncertain. "What are you—" "I'm sorry," Halima whispered. Her hands trembled, but her heart was iron. Before Zuwaira could speak again, Halima lunged. The knife found its mark. Zuwaira gasped, her eyes wide with disbelief, pain, and confusion. She stumbled backward, blood staining her wrapper. She tried to speak, to call out, but her breath came in shallow bursts. Halima dropped the knife, staring at her own hands, covered in blood. Zuwaira collapsed to the floor, her fingers reaching, weakly for her sister. "Why?" she whispered. Halima knelt beside her, crying now. "I loved him first. You were everything. And they chose you." Zuwaira's lips moved one last time, but no sound came. Then silence. Halima sat there for what felt like hours, rocking back and forth, her hands over her ears, trying to block out the terrible sound of what she had done. Outside, the wind began to howl, and the baobab trees swayed as if mourning. The night air grew colder, and the first tear of regret rolled down Halima's cheek. The rooster had barely crowed when Farooq returned from the market, a woven basket of tubers in his hand. As he approached the house, he noticed something strange. The door was wide open, and the smell of groundnut soup lingered in the still air, untouched by time. He stepped inside, calling softly, "Zuwaira? Halima?" No answer. Then he saw it. His world collapsed in that moment. Zuwaira's lifeless body lay on the floor, her eyes half open, a dark stain around her that no broom could ever clean. Kneeling beside her was Halima, her clothes soaked in, blood, her hands trembling. Her face was blank, her eyes wide as though trapped in a dream she couldn't escape. Farooq screamed. Neighbors came running. Within minutes, the house was full of gasps, wails, and shouts. Someone ran to fetch the elders. Someone else called for the village guards. Farooq fell beside Zuwaira, sobbing, holding her lifeless hand. "No, no, my Zuwaira. Why?" Halima didn't move. She didn't speak. She only stared ahead, whispering again and again. "She took everything. She took everything." When the guards arrived, they pulled Halima up roughly. "What have you done, girl?" one of them shouted. "She is my sister," Halima whispered. "She stole my life." "She stole nothing," someone from the crowd yelled. "You are cursed, wicked." The villagers began to gather like a storm. Some shouted for justice, others called for death. A few, mostly elders, remained silent, their faces carved with sorrow. Halima was dragged to the center of the village square. Her parents arrived. Breathless, confusion and horror written across their faces. Her mother collapsed upon seeing Zuwaira's blood on Halima's dress. "Not my child," she wailed. "Not my daughters." The head elder, Baba Gidado, came forward. His voice carried over the chaos. "This is not a time for noise. This is a time for judgment." The village followed old ways. Crimes of blood were judged not by one man, but by the Council of 9. They sat beneath the Iroko tree, their faces weathered, their eyes wise with years. Halima was made to kneel before them. For hours, they listened. To Farooq's story, to her parents, to Halima, who could only say, "I was hurting, I didn't mean to. I just couldn't bear it anymore." The elders consulted, then stood. "This act," Baba Gidado said, "has brought shame to this village, pain to a family, and death to an innocent soul. But blood shall not answer blood." He paused, letting the silence settle. By our law, she shall not be killed. Instead, she shall be exiled, for 7 seasons, into the Whispering Forest. No food, no visitors, no name. If the spirits let her live, she may return. If not, her fate is sealed. The villagers gasped. The forest was feared by all, full of snakes, spirits, and old stories of those who never returned. She will not survive, someone shouted. That is for the gods to decide, Baba Gadado replied. Halima looked up at him, eyes hollow. So be it, she said. Her mother wept loudly. Her father could only stare, as if carved from stone. That evening, as the sun began to sink behind the hills, the guards escorted Halima to the edge of the Whispering Forest. They untied her hands and left her at the border. She turned once, looking back at the village she had called home, the compound, the people, the life she had lost. Then, without a word, she stepped into the trees, and the forest swallowed her, whole. Halima walked deeper into the Whispering Forest, her bare feet scratching against roots and stones. Twigs snapped beneath her soles. Bats fluttered above. The sun disappeared behind thick canopies and the darkness closed in like a mother's embrace, only colder, harsher, and full of unseen eyes. She didn't know where she was going. She only walked, her arms folded across her chest, her thoughts echoing like drums in a hollow cave. The face of her sister, lifeless, flashed again and again before her eyes. Sometimes she would stop and cry. Other times she simply sat on the forest floor, blank and broken. For 2 days, she ate nothing but wild guavas and drank from muddy puddles. Her wrapper tore at the edges, her hair tangled with leaves. Her body grew weak, her spirit even weaker. On. The 3rd night, she collapsed near a hollow tree, too tired to move. That's when she heard the voice. You are not of the forest, it said, soft but firm. Halima opened her eyes to see a woman. She was old, blind in both eyes, with a walking stick made from twisted vine. Her clothes were patched but clean, and her presence was strange, like she had always belonged to the woods. Who are you? Halima whispered. I am Mama. Lami, the woman replied. And you are not the first broken child to wander into this place. Mama Lami helped Halima stand and led her through a narrow trail to a hidden clearing. There stood a tiny hut made of palm branches, surrounded by herbs and calabashes. Inside, it was warm. Mama Lami offered her soup made from pumpkin and wild leaves. Halima hesitated. Eat, the woman said gently. The dead will not return. If you starve, Halima ate. That night she cried into a woven mat. Mama Lami sat quietly, letting the girl empty her soul. I didn't mean to kill her, Halima whispered between sobs. She was my sister, but she took everything, and I broke. You were broken long before you raised that blade, Mama Lami replied softly. But even shattered clay can be molded again, if it is willing. From that day forward, Halima began a new life, one of quiet healing. Mama Lami taught her how to grind herbs for wounds, how to boil roots for fever, how to listen to the forest and feel its rhythm. Halima gathered firewood, fetched water, and slept beneath the stars. Slowly, the rage in her chest began to ease. At first, the villagers believed she would die, but seasons passed, and she lived. One day, a hunter arrived at the forest's edge with a snakebite. Mama Lami was away, and Halima had to act alone. She remembered the herbs, the boiling process, the chants. She saved his life. Word began to spread in whispers. The cursed girl lives and heals. People from nearby hamlets began to seek the mysterious healer in the woods. They brought their wounds, their sick children, their old mothers. Halima never gave her name. She never smiled much, but she treated each one with care. At night, she wrote letters to her sister on palm bark. Zuwaira, I'm sorry. I wish I could tell you how lost I was. I wish I had walked away instead of letting darkness grow inside me. I pray that wherever your spirit is, you find peace. She buried the letters beneath the roots of the oldest tree in the forest, and for the first time in years, she slept without dreaming of blood. 7 seasons passed. The sun had risen and fallen over the whispering forest more than 2,000 times since Halima stepped into its shadows. She was no longer the same girl who had walked in with blood on her hands and sorrow in her heart. Her face had grown thinner, but her eyes were stronger. Her voice, once bitter, had become soft, even when she said little. She had become a healer not only to others, but to herself. One morning, Mama Lami stood at the edge of the clearing, her walking stick pressed into the ground. "It is time," she said. Halima looked up from where she was grinding herbs. "Time for what?" "For you to return." The words hit her like a cold breeze. "Return to what?" Halima asked, her heart racing. "The village cast me out. They won't forgive me." Mama Lami gave a small smile. "Forgiveness is not something you can control. But truth, humility, and service? Those are gifts you bring back with you." With a wrapped bundle of herbs and her simple calabash bag, Halima left the forest at sunrise. When she stepped into the outer paths of Qualare, birds chirped as if the village hadn't changed. But she had. Her bare feet touched familiar earth, yet she felt like a stranger returning to a dream. The first person to see her was a little boy carrying firewood. He dropped the bundle and ran off screaming, "She's back! The cursed girl is back!" By midday, the entire village knew. People gathered at the square, unsure of how to feel. Some clutched their children, others folded their arms in silence. No one came forward to greet her. Halima did not defend herself. She simply knelt before the Iroko tree, the same place where her judgment had been passed 7 years ago. "I come not to claim anything," she said. "I come to serve. I come to ask forgiveness." The head elder, Baba Gadado, now older and slower, stepped forward. "Why should we trust you?" "Because the forest tested me," she answered. "And it did not kill me. It made me understand the weight of what I did. I do not ask you to forget, only to let me heal what I can." He nodded, though his eyes remained guarded. Her mother appeared from the crowd, limping and fragile. Time had bent her back and thinned her hair. But when she saw Halima, she burst into tears and embraced her. "My daughter. My broken daughter." They wept together. News of Halima's return spread fast. Some still avoided her. Others came in secret with their sick and injured. Halima never turned anyone away. She worked beneath a tree beside the family compound, where she boiled herbs, wrapped wounds, and comforted crying children. Farouk lived alone now. After Zuwaira's death, he had raised orphans from the village, refusing to remarry. He came to Halima one evening with a young girl who had fallen from a mango tree. Halima treated the child and handed her a sweet leaf to chew. Farouk watched her in silence. When the child left, he said, "You have changed." "So have you," Halima replied. They sat on the ground under the stars, their words quiet but heavy with history. Farouk spoke of Zuwaira, of regret, of the night he found Halima covered in blood. Halima wept. "I see her in my dreams," she said. "Sometimes she smiles, sometimes she turns away." "Maybe now," Farouk said, "she will start smiling again." And though the village still whispered, many began to say, "The girl who once brought death now brings healing." Perhaps the gods have turned their face back to her. 1 year after Halima's return, the village of Qualare was preparing for the Festival of Ancestors, a celebration of remembrance, healing, and new beginnings. Drums were being carved, women dyed wrappers with indigo, children practiced songs to honor those who had passed. For the first time since her exile, Halima was invited to attend. She didn't expect it. She had never asked. She had spent her days quietly beneath the baobab tree, healing the sick, teaching children how to make herbal salves, and writing new letters to her sister, letters she buried with tiny clay beads she molded herself on. The day of the festival, she wore a simple white wrapper. No jewelry, no perfume, just her healed heart and her worn hands. The villagers watched as she approached the festival grounds. The whispers were softer now, less judgmental, more curious. As the elders gathered, Baba Gidado raised his hand and said, "Before we begin our ceremonies, let us honor one who has journeyed through the fire and returned with water." He gestured, for Halima to step forward. She hesitated, then walked slowly until she stood in front of the crowd. "You all know my story," she said, her voice steady. "You know what I did, and what I lost. But I have learned that healing does not erase the past. It teaches us how to carry it with honor." The crowd remained silent, some with tears in their eyes, others nodding solemnly. "I will never forget my sister," she continued. "She was light, and I let my shadow destroy that light. But in her memory, I now live to serve. If you will have me, I offer my hands to this village, not to take, but to give." Then something remarkable happened. A child walked up to Halima and placed a small white flower in her hand. Then another followed, and another. Soon, children and mothers came forward, pressing flowers and herbs into her palms, murmuring, "Thank you, and bless you, and for Zuwaira." It was the first time anyone had spoken her sister's name in public in years. Halima broke down and wept. That night, the village danced not just in memory of the ancestors, but in the spirit of forgiveness. The flames of the fire crackled high into the night sky as people shared food, sang songs, and whispered that perhaps, just perhaps, redemption was real. At the edge of the gathering, Farouk watched Halima from a distance. When she walked away, from the crowd to sit alone, he followed. "I never forgot you," he said. She turned, surprised. "Not even after what I did?" "Especially after what you did," he replied. "Because I too carry guilt. I should have spoken up. I should have fought tradition, but I was weak." They sat together in silence. Then, Farouk reached into his bag and pulled out a small wooden box. "Zuwaira once gave this to me. She said if I ever lost my way, I should open it." Halima opened the box slowly. Inside was a note. It was in Zuwaira's handwriting. "If I am ever taken from this world, let love be my voice. Let my memory be a bridge, not a wall." Halima clutched the note to her chest, tears streaming down her face. "Do you think she forgives me?" she asked. Farouk looked up at the stars. "I believe she never stopped loving you." The festival fire burned brightly behind them, and so Halima, once broken, once cursed, became a symbol of healing in Qualare. She opened a small healing center in her sister's name, the House of Zuwaira, where anyone could come, no matter their past, and find care, compassion, and hope.